Welcome to R&R Resilience and Rebirth, where every voice and every story matters, because your story has the power to change someone else's life. Hello, podcast lovers. Thank you so much for coming back. I am your host, Žana, and today it is a premiere. Absolutely. I'm so excited because I have Jess today with me, and Jess and I have a very deep and long personal friendship, but also a very strong client friendship with each other because we have met, I want to say 3 years ago. And since that time, we have been working together every single month, and we had the privilege of gaining, I definitely would say that Jess is part of my vibe tribe, and I'm so blessed that I have met her. And we'll dive in today about energies and all the parts that energies and energetic fields and everything that comes with it. We'll dive today in this conversation much deeper and, offering a little bit of a behind the scene view. So Jess, I'm so excited that you're here. I know you're so busy with your own business, and I know you're so caught up with so many things, but I'm so grateful that you took the time to be my guest, because this is really such an important conversation, and I'm happy that you said yes. So hi and welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm getting a little teary-eyed right now because I'm like thinking about how our relationship has grown through so much based upon like being really open and honest and vulnerable and just being human together. So thank you so much for having me today. I am honored and I'm grateful to be here with you. And absolutely, I'm so excited to be able to share our story.
Yes, me too. And so, obviously we chose a specific topic today with each other because this has been, since the last 3 years, very, very dear to me to really understand better what energies really mean. And through you, I had the privilege to learn so many things. And I want to kind of take it a little bit back before we really dive into our actual topic. I want to kind of give the audience the privilege of getting to know you a little bit better too, because I know so much already about you, but I'm wanting to start at the very beginning, before everything had happened, before, you became the woman that you are today and the successful entrepreneur that you are. I want to take it a little bit back, and I want to talk about your own spiritual journey and your own awakening process and your own ways of explaining how did spirituality play a role in your life, and where did that for you started in a sense, and what do you think made you already when you were a little girl so different, to the awareness of like, oh wow, I feel like I'm so different than everybody around me, and how did you handle all of that? So take us back.
Thank you. Those are great questions. So let's talk about that. I grew up and I'm still part of this amazing family that I thought everybody had moms and like grandmas and uncles that would do like clearings with an egg, parsley and cilantro, that would take holy water and spray in the corners of the house and like pray over you and work on you energetically to remove like bad dreams and emotions that would overwhelm us. So I do come from a long lineage of men and women who practice spirit medicine, which would be like energetic modalities. There's various kinds. I have ancestors that practice herbal medicines. They were what would be considered in our Latin community being curanderas and curanderos. They are healers. And I have family members that are psychics. They are mediums. And so I grew up with this family completely unaware that the rest of the world didn't see ghosts and didn't have to cast out energies from locations, may not even be in our house, but like being able to see things firsthand, like lights and orbs, or seeing things move, and seeing my mom heal other people from really bad injuries and illnesses and diseases. And I grew up thinking that was completely normal until I went to school. And I remember looking at an energy, which it was like a really dark, shadowy figure next to a child. And I was a child at the time. and just students in the class, and I'm just watching it and, you know, trying to figure out, is it something that this child knew? Is it just visiting the school? Like, what's going on? And my best friend, she's like, what do you see? Because, you know, she knew that I shared with her like what I would go through and how I felt. And she's like, what do you see? And I told her, I said, there's a dark presence in the classroom. And she's like, where? So I tell her where it's at, and my girlfriend was just that kind of person, and she still is. She just speaks her mind, and she taps on the child's shoulder and says, you have a darkness around you. And I looked at her and I was like, oh my gosh, why would you say that? Now, at this point in time, I'm really young. I'm in elementary school. I'm probably like around 5th grade. I'm not yet trained to remove and cast away things. Now, what I can do is I can call in angels. I was taught like that. I was taught how to raise the vibrational resonance of the space, things like that. But I didn't know how to play with that because I was still young and my mom didn't want me to play in that arena yet. So at this point now, it's rumored in school that I see dead people. And this is before Sixth Sense, the movie, came out, by the way. So when that movie did come out, that kind of helped me out actually growing up, because it was like interesting. Kids started to realize that there are people in this world that can see and sense things that others cannot. So needless to say, I was that weird kid. I was the one that people wanted to know, but yet a little concerned to know me. Those who were like my friends that were like, I don't care. I think you're amazing. I want to be around you. Those are the ones that understood me. And thankfully, I felt safe enough to share, like if there was something that I would see in the corner of the room, or if I walk into somewhere that I felt like there was this illness energy and I was like, I can't walk through that. That just feels really gross. And the other issues that I grew up with, if it wasn't with school, and finally I would get acceptance from my inner circle, and the other, you know, students were like, she's weird. One of the greatest things that I had challenged with, and it's just coming to my memory now, was when my mom and my sister would take me to go visit our family friends. Now, back in the day, we didn't have cell phones and all those things where you can call someone and all that. It would be like a payphone if you could find one. And I went to my mom's best friend's house with my sister. We were going to go hang out there with her and her children. And I cannot cross the threshold. And I explained to my mom, I go, there's something that happened here. I don't know what's going on, but it's actually making me get a gastritis attack. And that was my first telltales of when I would pick up something energetically, my stomach would really get sick. Like I would have dry heaving, like we called it gastritis back in the day, which is now I think it's irritable bowel syndrome. But that would be my tell. In other words, that was my body signal picking up energetics that were not good, that were distorted, stagnant, depressing, or some bad memory imprints in the space that my body could pick up. Now, we didn't know all my gifts yet because I was still growing up. And then later on, as I got older, I discovered what my intuitive abilities are, what they're called, and how they are used. But that's what I would deal with. So my mom would get really upset at me, and it was pretty sad. She would be like, gosh, Jessica, I can't take you anywhere because if I take you, if you pick something up, then we have to leave. And I didn't drive all the way over here just for us to leave and go back home. And that would make me feel really guilty. It'd make me feel ashamed. And then I felt pretty angry. Like, you get this? Like, why are you making me feel bad for what I feel? And that kept going on as we got older until the point my mom and my sister stopped inviting me. And so, you know, having the gifts didn't feel like gifts when I was a child. I actually felt very isolated, withdrawn even. And I felt really misunderstood. And so later on, as my mom started studying more, because we knew what we knew from our family lineage, but my mother, thankfully, is a woman that wanted to gain more knowledge. She started going to schools and started learning, getting trained more in the craft. And then she understood me more, and then she understood that she needed to protect me. As she kept going to healers and discovering what was happening to me as a child, she discovered from the healers that I too would be a healer into the future. And that the reason why I would experience these things was to train my physical and metaphysical body to know how to read how to translate these things, to know how to use my vision, the way I smell the room. Maybe I'll get a taste in my mouth, or like I'll get goosebumps and heat up. Now, it's all normalized to me now, but when I was a child growing up and going into a teenager, it was quite of a challenge. But
Yeah,
later
I
on,
can
my
only
mom was pretty
imagine.
good and very
Yeah,
supportive. But she had to grow with me, and I can't
yeah,
imagine what that was like
yeah,
for her
yeah.
to deal with
It
someone
seems
like
like,
me.
yeah, it seems like you both learned from each other the gifts that you already had implemented in you guys, and you kind of like learned with each other. Like she obviously learned in her pace because she
Yes.
was older and she was more mature to pick up certain things and to translate them faster as you. And then she probably also invited you and taught you. But I want to just throw a very quick question out there is your belief to that people are born with such gift, or is this something that you personally say, even though you're not naturally born with it and you're not coming from a lineage of a family like that, this is still something that you can learn if that is your interest field? Or how would you say if somebody sees this right now and says, gosh, I wonder if I have any gifts like that? And yeah, when she's talking about the goosebumps and the tasting, I have that. I wonder if I can refine those gifts, if that is something that I want to, partay in and be a part of. I
Hmm.
mean, some people, it freaks them out and they're like, because I know from my own childhood, for me, it was quite normal too to have somebody in my family that just talked to dead people. And I figured everybody in my class has an aunt that does that. And I found out that it's really not like that. So I totally, like align with you when you said that it made me feel like very isolated to the part where I was really misunderstood. And so, yeah, my question is, do you think, that we can learn these gifts, or is this really something that just specific people are born with?
Everyone is an intuitive to some extent. And we can remember when people would say, do you remember that gut feeling? Listen to your heart.
Right,
Everything you need to know, it's already inside of you. And we're like,
right,
what the heck are they talking about? And I'll tell you, like, some of us are, and it's just all different variations because we're not fine tuning. It's just like when you go to the gym, you're not going to pick up 400 pounds that you never worked out in a day. You're going to slowly increase your endurance, your strength, and your technique, right? Same idea with intuitive senses. It's just like our physical senses, but it's the
hmm,
extra sensory senses that we feel, whether in the physical body and outside of the body. And yes, I do believe that people are born with it. As I recall, as I was growing up and I was learning various religions and sacred texts, I do recall books where they were talking about how we are designed in the creator's image, that we too are given the spirit, and that we can be given the opportunity to pray over people, that we can, heal ourselves and we can heal others. And some things can be cured and some things cannot be, and that's for another episode.
right,
But in the case
right.
of, can people sense things? Absolutely. And I'll tell you who are the ones that are really good at picking up. And I mean, there's movies about it for generations and for generations. So children and animals, they're not restricted in limitations of beliefs. They just know, what they feel, what they sense, and it's their absolute. So a child
Hmm.
will say, I feel like there's monsters underneath my bed, or I heard some noises and it wasn't you, mom. And it's like their ability to let their clear hearing, their ability to sense a hearing, a sound, is far greater, like in refinement, because they're not yet told by the world that they are wrong, that they're strange, that it's not real. All they know is they're picking something up, and so they're communicating it. And so
Hmm.
I do believe, based upon my own personal experience, yes, you can be born with it. And as we discovered in real time, that I had to learn and practice and be disciplined and consistent. And I just was in a position where I had a family that cultivated and supported that for me, gave me the tools and the guidance, and allowed me to communicate the wildest things. I was like, the earth is shaking. I could feel it. I think we're going to have an earthquake. Or when my godmother would have me draw at the table and she's like, I want you to draw whatever comes to you. Don't think about it, just do it. And then I did a tornado, and it was nothing like it is today. And then later on, as I was being babysat by my godmother, there was on the news that there was a tornado, and she was so excited, so thrilled. She called up my mom while she was at work, and she's like, you need to know that just sensed that there was going to be like a tornado, a storm, and she drew it out. And she was so proud of my godmother, because my godmother was also intuitive, and which is why they were best friends. They could raise their daughters side by side because there wouldn't be any weirdness. There was no competition. It was all about support and unity and learning how to cultivate that. And then for those that were not raised in the environment or given the exposure as you and I, they too, on their own, sometimes it feels like a psychosis. Sometimes they think that they're going crazy. And I'm not saying that there isn't any mental instability of any kind. There is. However, I've also witnessed those that were not treated properly, were not given the tools, not given the support, the coaching, the patience. They got lost in the system, and it was considered like they were not okay, like there was something wrong with them. And then the ones that didn't get lost in the system, whether they on their own didn't get the family or the friendship connection to support them, they found someone like myself, like a mentor, or they found something on their social media, and they were like, oh, cool, I want to talk to this person to really see what's going on. And so then at that point, they get assessed. We talk about what they've ever been through. I'm like, tell me all the things, all the weird things that others would look at you cross-eyed and share it with me. Because I love when people go, I have the weirdest thing, I don't know if I should tell you. And I'm like, honey, I was made for this. Tell me. And so we can help them to learn that. And so it is both. You don't have to be fully activated now. You may have that dormant, but it's in there, and we just unlock that and bring you to your remembrance. And then we normalize your extrasensory abilities, which would be your intuition. And then we show you how to do practical methods to get really good at it. And it's really fun. It's very liberating and empowering for each person.
Yeah, exactly. But, I also kind of want to add to all of that there is unfortunately also people out there, and let it be anybody that claims they can do a coffee cup reading or any kind of else reading, or like a clearing of some kind, or cutting cords or whatever it might be. And I feel like in my own experience, I would only suggest to people, and I don't know how you feel about that, to always go with somebody that the person that is suggesting such thing to you already has worked with with themselves together. Just because there's so many people that claim to have all these different gifts, and there's obviously people, like in any industry, they just want to make money. They, and these kind of things like clearings and cutting cords and doing all kind of things, they could also dive into the other side of not light and love, of not kindness, of not really respecting free will and respecting that there only is one creator, but really moving into that direction of like, okay, I want to achieve this goal, and I'm so obsessed with this goal or this person or this situation or whatever, that I'm trying to go to somebody that can actually help me achieve this goal, regardless what the free will of the actual person really is. And I do want to point out at this point, or I want to give you the opportunity really to speak on that, because when we are tapping into spiritual gifts, and when we are feeling that there's something that we cannot handle by ourselves, which is really something that I want to go in a little bit later too, about really the energies that we pick up from other people. And that's not only when we're empath, that's also when we're just a human being in general. We do all have that gut feeling. We do all have that intuition. And when other people are throwing, evil eyes, or when they have thought forms that are really not benefiting us. And I feel like the confusion sometimes goes in where people think, well, I didn't talk to this person. I didn't connect to this person. I didn't touch this person. I didn't have anything to do with the person. Yet I learned through you that it doesn't really matter if that's the case, because what really is the case is that simply through those thought forms that people place on you or have about you, you feel the energetic ripple effect that is kind of like energetically sent to you. And if you don't know how to, by yourself, kind of, just be in your own godly authority and just claim over yourself that no matter who and what and where you are, that creator is always protecting you. I feel like that's really something that people also get misunderstandings from, or misinformation, to be like, okay, you need to go and see this healer. Oh, you have this and this on you. Here's something that you need to do. Oh, let me take this off of you and let me offer you that. And I feel like when we don't do this due diligence research on these healers that we're getting ourselves with involved, I feel, and this goes back to you, if it's safe to say that we're actually doing more harm to ourselves than actually good. So what is your take on that whole idea? Like if somebody really is in the middle of feeling they want to have like a spiritual mentor or somebody that
Yeah.
can really come in and teach and just also help with energies that we ourselves we don't know how to, because if we don't come from a lineage with like all
Right.
the mother earth tools that you guys are using,
Mhm.
like bay leaves and salt and pepper and vinegar and mint and cinnamon and all those amazing things, if we don't know how to really use that, what is your suggestion? How do we go about finding a healer when we've never, and what are the consequences if we happen to tap into something or somebody where we just like, oh, that sounds good, let me do that.
Yeah, those are a lot of levels in that. Well, let's first go and break it down in the manner of human. Now we know that
Right.
human, there are humans that have really great intentions and have the integrity and follow the universal laws. They have a genuine faith. They are being very honest and will give you maybe extra time and tools to really help you to understand. I also like when practitioners say, I want you to take a look for yourself. I want you to look into, don't take my word for it. I like when practitioners say, I want you to research. And it's really at the end of the day, it is up to each and every one of us to take responsibility to do our due diligence to look into the person that we're going to meet with. A lot of the
Mhm.
times, when we talk to them, you can find out like, who are they? What caused them to get into their practice and things of that nature. And like on my site, I write down, I have like, interviews that I've done. I've actually written about my health and how I got in here because I want to be very transparent because you're right, John, at the end of the day, someone can say that they're a healer and they may be. I'm not going to take away that they aren't, but they may not have the values. They may not have the conviction nor the integrity to be upstanding. So a lot of us are gifted in different ways. However, there's some of us that are going to be a little bit more greedy, a little bit more gatekeeping, a little bit more in their ego. And we need ego, by
Mhm.
the way. So it's not ego is bad. It's just if that's running the vehicle always. And that
Mhm.
can be an issue. So yeah, you could tap into healers that use different forces of energies. You just got to go with the one that you feel aligned and resonate with. So for
Mhm.
example, when people say to me the type of work that I do a lot of energetic quantum work. And I work with the brain waves and I work with Reiki, which is a Japanese stress management technique, and it's supposed to support the physical body. And then I do theta, which helps with the brain waves and emotional patterns and belief systems. So all this is very important to me. I absolutely love it. And then I also bring in the faith systems from my upbringing and things of that nature. And really, there's going to be people that are going to go to some practitioners and it may get worse because I've seen that too. They'll go somewhere and I'm not going to blame all practitioners either. So this is not a blanket statement. So don't come after me in this case. But there are some that are just not given the full structure of what are the laws. And what I mean by the laws is when we are going into someone's field, just because we can doesn't mean we should. So look for a
Mhm.
practitioner that respects you, a practitioner that communicates truthfully if they are allowed to even read you. So immediately people think that I'm going to start channeling them, I'm going to start entering the field. No, thank you. I've learned as I was growing up and going through all my trainings that just because I can doesn't mean I should. It's not, first and foremost, it's disrespectful just to go and read someone and you didn't ask if you could read them. You don't know where they're at emotionally and mentally at that moment to even share such information. And I've actually seen it on social media. And I know that the person meant well, but I think at that point, like when I've seen some readers, they could have said, hey, I'm getting this message. Are you in a place right now that I may share with you? And allow the person to say yes or no. And if they're not, then you hold that for yourself. And people were like, well, why did I get the information? Maybe you just needed to know that. And maybe you can send a prayer with good intentions up for them. And that's probably all that you needed to do. We are trained that we don't open up a can of worms unless we have the time and our client is truly able, ready, willing, and eager to accept that kind of information. So look for practitioners that respect you, have a lot of empathy, and I meet my clients where they are at, meaning if they're completely new, they have no idea what the heck I'm saying. In my sessions, I take time to explain everything I'm saying. I'm very transparent in my commands. I'm explaining what the hand waves are, my Reiki symbols. I'm like, this is a symbol for this. I do that because I want people to feel safe, to learn, and to create a trust between the two of us. And so look for people that aren't just trying to show you that they can do it, but that they're willing to meet you where you are at and help to empower you and to see you align to your better version of yourself, not just because they're getting paid, not just because they have all these wonderful gifts, but because they also respect you. So look for a practitioner that aligns with your values, someone who's very communicative, and ask questions. I love it when I do a complimentary meet and greets. And I do that because I want to know you and I want you to get to know me. It's very personal, the work that we do. It's very intimate.
Right.
I get to see versions of people in such vulnerable manners that I want them to feel comfortable and safe. And if we align, great. If we don't, that's okay too. And that's why I offer that. That's completely free. I've been doing that for years because I do remember some people would say, I talked to this person and I just paid them and they did this to me. And also take a look at their credentials. Ask them about it. Be like, and it's great because people are powerful even without the credentials, but it's also helpful to see that they already know that they have the gift. So they invest in themselves. They are dedicated and disciplined to go to school and to train and to continue to do that. That's also a good sign. That's like, all right, this person's taking it seriously. This isn't This isn't just a hobby. They're holding it as a true profession. And that's why they'll charge.
Right. I want to thank you for this explanation.
Yeah.
I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into the idea of like when we talk about energy in general, I wanted to throw out the questions that when I first got introduced to you and your gifts, I was a personality that never really believed in Reiki. I never really believed in energy as such. I always believed in God and I knew that I'm protected and I always knew that there are guardian angels and archangels and stuff. But I never really believed in a method that I got to experience when I started to be more in contact with you and get the privilege of actually also, having sessions with you. And so I would like to start with very simple questions of like, what is really energy in general? What does it mean to have an energetic clearing done? And also, what is the consequence if we never ever have any energetic clearing done ever? Like, what are certain parts on our own body that we can realize or we get to understand of like, hey, I have this constantly going on, but I really don't know what this is. And I would love for you if you can maybe just throw out simple examples of like, what is really an energetic clearing? What does it mean if you clear an energetic field? And then also, dive a little bit deeper into what if you don't do that? Like, how do you, if you have the standpoint of like, this is just not something, this is all woo-woo to me, and I don't believe this at all, because I do believe in God and that's all I believe in, which I was a person like that. But, having an asset like that, like somebody like you in my corner since the last 3 years has really been something that I've never thought can change my life so dramatically like it really did. And we'll dive deeper into how it changed it so dramatically a little bit later. But yeah, I would love for you to just give us quick little examples of like what that really means,
Right. So we're all energetic beings, and thank goodness now in our year that we have more studies that are able to pick up biofields and translate these energetic frequencies, and they're able to see it in numbers. They're able to quantify it now. So every one of us, we've already learned as we were growing up, and we're being confirmed even now, that each and every one of our bodies carry electricity. We got water. We're very magnetic. So we've learned that we are already that kind of like our own version of a sentient being. We're pretty dynamic in ourselves. And here's what I want to share what my mom taught me about energy. So when I was little, I bumped my knee. What do you do immediately if you bump your knee? What's the natural?
Like you want to hold it.
Beautiful. So what we do is we go, ooh, and we hold it. We're like, did you know in the palm of your hands you have energy centers? So that's why that warmth, that comforting sensation that we apply to our bodies through a hug, through applying pressure in an area that just got injured, why there is an absolute soothing. We apply the pressure and we feel this sensations. It could be known as warmth or temperature fluctuations, pressures, emotional awareness. We may feel like we're being in a blanket, cocooned. So we are all energetic beings. Every one of us, even down to our plants, our animals. And we also have learned and discovered through science that even inanimate objects also carry a frequency. That though it looks that it's still, it's moving so fast in our timeline that our minds cannot see the movement of these things. But now we have so many wonderful tools that actually can pull the biofeedback of these energetic frequencies and put it on paper to see the spikes, see the numbers that suggest when there is a spike in energy. Like even if we talk about Mother Earth, we have now the Schumann resonance that is constantly picking up the frequencies of the earth with solar flares, earthquakes, floods. We're seeing different colors like thermal readings and spikes and signatures. So with that being said, energy is all around us. And, you know, I grew up in a very religious family. So I'm going to use this illustration because this is how it helped me as I was growing up to learn. Now, I had learned in Christianity for me was that there was Jesus, who was the Son of God, and he would go and he would lay hands, or he wouldn't even have to lay hands. And his energy, his resonance was so vibrant. It was medicinal. It was healing. It was comforting. It was protective. And then he went ahead and he brought these apostles in, just regular people. That's what I love about that story. He just brought in regular people that were not in that, especially not recognized nor respected in society. And he took regular people and the ones that were like, I remember like the tax collector and all these different people. And he's like, I'm going to show the world that you too carry this energetic frequency that you can help yourself and others. And so he took these 12 people with him and taught them and led them the way and healed them and showed them how to do it, because we all have that power to do so, right? So energy is all around you. It's in your body, and your energy is like the battery. And think about your cell phone. So our cell phone's at 100%. We start getting on, we're scrolling, we're answering a few emails. The battery starts to drop. And imagine if we never charged our phone. Well, we can't use it. It's not going to be in its function. It's not well used. It's now just sitting there. Same idea if a person doesn't have any energetic transfers. What happens is all the things that they've ever experienced, the foods that they have, the environment, pollutants, traumas that they've gone through, they never got an opportunity to have that relieved off of their energetic body. What ends up happening, that energy of all the memories, the foods, the experiences, the relationships, starts to turn into what we call disease lines. Like it's where the energy becomes dense and stuck and stagnant in the body. And then people experience like autoimmune issues, gastrointestinal problems, intolerances, sleeping issues. And the list can go on because it can go into even deeper illnesses and diseases. So that's what I've noticed. If people do not give themselves an opportunity, they stay stuck with what they went through 20 to 30 years ago, because it's in their consciousness as a memory, and then their subconscious, they now created it as a program, as a belief, and now it's not serving them. What they went through was real, but now they're in a different level of their life. Maybe they're adults, and now because of what they went through and they never addressed it, it's holding them back. Sometimes they'll create self-sabotage. They may even not even realize that they are vampiring someone else's energy because they're not getting that ease and that relief through any energetic relief and transfers. They're just, oh, can I call my best friend? And this is what's happening. They become like the sob sister and they're dumping everything on this person. And so now they're like, oh, I feel a little bit better, but then they go right back because that's short term. The whole point of what we do as energetic work, when I do an energetic scan, I sense where in the body there's a lot of heaviness. It feels like almost like a pressure, almost like if you put like a pillow on your body. That's how it's translated for me. And then I go, oh, if I start using my palm center and I start going like this and I go, ooh, something feels fuzzy. It feels like I have to stop. It feels like there's something there. And I tell people it's very simple. You can even get to learn what subtle energy is like by taking one palm and taking the other palm, and you bring it closer and you can close your eyes and you can already feel like your hands are coming together. You already know that you're bringing your hands together, but you feel a fuzzy sensation, a presence of some kind. So I tell people, if you don't ever give yourself a chance to clear yourself, it's like going to a restaurant and eating on the dirty plate that has never been cleaned. Would you eat off of a plate that who knows how many people have eaten upon and how long it's been used as a dirty plate? Would you want to eat from that? Because I don't. I want it to be clean and I want it to be ready for me to be served my nourishment. And it's the same idea for yourselves. So I hope I answered all your questions on that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. This was so well explained and so thoroughly explained too. I really liked it a lot. And then, I'm also wondering, when we talk about energetic clearing and healing and all of that, when we now bring in specific things that are, in a sense, unusual, but they are happening, there's obviously so many things that energetically can happen to one. And you just slightly brought it up when you were talking about energy vampires. I would love to just dive a little bit very briefly into the term. What does that mean if somebody gets energetically vampired, or if somebody is maybe an energetic vampire? How do we notice that? Like, how do I notice for myself that I am maybe an energetic vampire, or I am being robbed of my energy? Like, what are maybe 1-2 things that you can maybe express of how does that feel for somebody? How does that play out in like real life?
Before we continue, I wanted to take a quick moment to say thank you for your trust. These conversations can really exist because people are willing to openly listen and hold space for real conversations. If this episode resonates with you, the best way to support the podcast is to follow or subscribe so that these stories can keep reaching the people who really need to hear them. This podcast began with my story, but it continues by making space for yours. Your voice and your story matters. Now, let's get back to it.
Good question. So here's the thing. You don't even have to touch the person. You can actually be on the phone with your best friend who's going through a difficult time in their life. Maybe it could be a family member or a friend or a partner that keeps mistreating them. So they come to you and they're like, oh my gosh, this happened again. And, maybe that friend was like, they're holding space, super patient. It's been like, friend, I've been telling you, these are things that you need to vocalize. You need to put boundaries down. Or if this person keeps being abusive, then why do you allow them to still stay in your life, right? So this person loves their friend and is just there. And this person just keeps crying and sobbing all about all the bad things that they're dealing with. And they just feel like they are just a target for a bad life. So then they hang up the phone. And the friend that was taking all the information to be super loving and attentive to that friend that was sobbing, all of a sudden goes, God, I have a headache. I feel like I have a pressure in my head. Or I feel kind of sick to my stomach. Or they become moody. All of a sudden they notice that inside of them internally little things are triggering them and bothering them. And other times, whatever a family member or a friend or a partner, someone that you're really close and have a bond with, you may start noticing signs in your life that you are now having the same bad experiences. And you're like, what just happened? And then, a lot of times the friends are like, oh my gosh, we're trauma bonding. This is our thing. And they don't even realize they could actually be pushing it upon each other out of good and love and intentions. They want to be there for each other, but they don't know how to cut that emotion after they've discussed it. They don't know how to not allow that into their body. And before they know it, they're seeing it signs on a physical level. They start noticing that maybe their skin looks a little darker, like there's a mask on them, like they're they're not doing well, or they get sick. And I've heard that from people who've been vampired. So those who've been vampired may notice that all of a sudden they're not getting any kind of business. Maybe that friend is having a hard time in their business and they're a little envious that you are doing better than they are. They're like trying to do everything that you're doing, but for whatever reasons, it's working out better for you, not for them. So now you start noticing that all of a sudden your business starts to get a little sluggish, but you don't think anything of it until you start seeing that there is no money coming through. And you're like, wait a minute, this is weird. This has never happened before. I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to do, and I'm still getting this weird result. And it could be because we empathize as humans with our people, that we internalize a lot of what they're going through, and we pick it up into our own emotions, into our own ideas, and we start becoming almost similar to our person. Now, how do you know if you're the vampire? A lot of people don't know that they're the vampire. Well, for example, are you the type of person that is a passive aggressive family member or friend that gives a compliment but gives a straight up negative, critical words and statement all at the same time? Then we would call you a jugular fiend energetic vampire. Someone that is like, oh, you lost weight. That's a nice outfit. Too bad it looks like it's a bag over you. You've lost so much weight. I mean, it's a really nice outfit. Thank you, I guess. You'll have this person that will criticize you like, oh, well, that's all you can get with that guy that you have. I mean, you might as well just stay. I mean, you two get each other. You guys match. And they're critical. Are you super critical? And why are you being critical? Your family, your friend already is going through whatever they're going through. And you can go back to the old saying when we were growing up, you have nothing nice to say, then don't say anything, because you don't know that your words carry weight and can truly cause a big shock to a person. So that person can already, by being so critical, disrespectful, or gives you a compliment but shades you all at the same time, they're a vampire. And here's the other ones too. When they're constantly calling you about the same problem, yet they do nothing about it. They just want your attention. They want you to feel sorry for them. And they have no desire to change anything. They just like to complain. That's another sign of a vampire. So, it's very harsh personalities that are toxic. The ones that you walk away and you're like, oh my God, I can go years without talking to this person again. I don't even want to see them during the holiday. That's already telling you that there's a sign that they're toxic to you to some degree. So we can be negative people. We all have the tendency, including myself. But when you become more emotionally aware of what's triggering you, what's making you behave that way, then you can analyze that, reassess that. You can correct it. You can make better choices and learn not to be a vampire, or to allow yourself to be vampired by people that we love and care about. Because those are the ones that really are the ones that get in.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And so exactly to that, I would want to see if there's maybe something where me as a regular person, is there maybe some, I don't know, light command or something that I could practice for myself on daily basis if I'm tapping into this learning, if I'm now, choosing for myself that I want to learn more about this. Is there maybe something that now that I realized, oh, wow, wait, there is such person in my life, or maybe I am such person too. Is there maybe something that people can do right in this moment for themselves to kind of like just have a small of a buffer? Obviously, it's very different. And I can say this from my own life experience. It's very different to work with somebody like you on a monthly basis that kind of like jumps in and does the work for you. However, through you, I did learn so many of my own commands that I'm practicing every single day. It became like such a life ritual for me that I've been using on my own life and my own situations when I'm walking into certain situations or whatnot. But, for me to get here took me some time. But is there maybe something that people, when they realize it right now, can just start by saying that intentionally of like, this can be the start of something, which doesn't mean that if you say this on a regular basis, that it's going to be just gone. But
Right.
maybe it's a good way of
It's a
practicing your
start.
own bodily authority within you,
Mhm.
of like just, allowing that to kind of like, amplify and get bigger and get stronger, kind of like, riding a bike. And then my part two question to that is when you are, I want to go a little bit deeper into cutting cords
Mhm.
too, what that term really means,
Yeah.
to cut cords with somebody. So yeah, because when we're talking about cutting cords, it's so easy again to be like, oh yeah, I just cut cords with that person, or the term cutting cords got so socialized, like so many people in society are just using it. But I know that in spiritual realm like these, there's
Mhm.
actually certain things that really do happen when we choose intentionally to cut cords. And
Right.
are we able ourselves to intentionally cut cords with somebody, or is it actually more powerful to have somebody like you in the corner to be like, I will help you to really amplify that so it doesn't even come back? Because
Mhm.
sometimes I would also have the question when I started this whole journey, well, okay, we did the clearing, but why is it back? Why
Yeah.
are certain things back
Yeah.
again? And
Mhm.
so I would love for you to
Oh,
kind of
that's
like,
so cool. These are great
to touch a
questions.
little bit based on those. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's think about words. Words, we know, is called spelling, and that every word has a power and a meaning, and there is some kind of momentum behind a word. So we, every time that we're speaking, we can speak words of life or death to ourselves, about ourselves, and to other people. And we got to be careful with that, because now we're sending out a message. And if you're really passionate and intentional, you can really help someone and you can hurt someone. So, for
Mhm.
example, our words. I just had, right before we jumped on, I was taking care of a client of mine, and I was really proud of him because he was saying that someone had came into his house and was explaining all the bad things that they were going through. And they used the word of, the Prince of Darkness in his home. And immediately, based upon him and I working together, he remembered, if I don't allow it in, and I have, because he's practiced in his faith and how to cancel it, I was taught, and I had taught those who are just starting, you could say, I cancel that, I delete that, I do not accept that. And we've heard in even religious terms, I rebuke that, I do not
Right.
accept that. So by you intentionally, when someone's coming at you and saying something really nasty, and he said, I did not like when this person was saying these things, he said immediately, he's like, this is not accepted in my home. We don't discuss these type of topics in my house. This is not allowed. And I would appreciate that you would stop. He goes, I cancel, delete that. I release any and all words and thoughts that you have brought into my home, and I send it out of my space now.
Oh, I like that. I cancel. Say that again,
I
please.
cancel and delete
Mm-hmm.
whatever, and then you put in whatever the person is doing, and I
Right.
release this now from my space or from me. So
Love
my
that.
client was like, did I do a good job? And I said, yes, you did, because at the moment, my client is already knowing that they have sovereignty, they have authority to not
Right.
allow that darkness to enter their field, especially if they're in a lifestyle that's all about living in faith and gratitude and light and being a genuine good person, and doesn't want to allow demonic forces into their field. So that was something that I was also taught as a little girl. Actually, was actually from one of my cousin, the one that my godmother, her dad. He was so sweet, and he knew that, I had a strong faith, but also like knew and accepted that I was going to be serving in some manner to humanity. And he would say, Jessica, anytime that someone tells you something that makes you feel scared, that makes you feel like uncomfortable, he goes, I want you to say, I cancel and delete that in the name of, and I would say, because that's where my faith was. But then as I learned throughout just spirituality and energetics, you could say, I cancel it, I delete it, because you're the sovereign being. You are the creator. So you already are saying, no, I do not allow that in. So it's like you could say, I cancel, delete, I do not allow it in. Those are
Mm-hmm.
really great statements. They're power statements, but you got to remember, you got to think it, You got to believe it. You got to feel it. And that's what you're going to project out. So that is one way that you can do that. And anyone can do that. Like I teach my little girl, she's 9. And my oldest daughter, who's also a practitioner, taught our daughter, in case we're not around and we can't help you, and you're going to see things, you're going to feel something, that we taught her to call in her angels. And it was basically, here's your angels, say, save me, protect me now. Because you're going to be so scared, you may not even be able to speak. I couldn't speak when I was little. I would just think it. And my mom and my grandmother would teach me that's all I needed. Because if you think and you believe and you speak it or you receive it, then you're creating it. So that's where I think also the Peter Pan idea, like you got to believe it, you got to create it, and then you're in that existence, and that goes into manifestation, how we create and how we attract things and how we become. But it's that idea. And then you were also asking about the cords, right?
Right.
Okay.
Cutting the cord. What
So
does that
what
really
are
mean?
cords? Yeah, thank you. So what are cords? Cords are emotional connections and threads that we have with everyone. I'm going to use a mom and a baby. That's a really great example. So a mama, just having this wonderful baby, this new infant, has this cording. And we like to think of the umbilical cord, that was the physical first cord. And the mom has this ability to understand what's happening to their child, even in her sleep. She'll wake up, my child, and they realize that their child is just waking, and they can go straight to their child. So we can carry cords not just as mom to children, but as in best friends, even clients. We can do it with all kinds of people, and that means there's an emotional connection. There's a bond. There's this, I feel safe, I love you. We have this oneness, and it's not a bad thing. There are good cords, like the ones where you feel like, oh, I got to call my mom. I think something's going on, or I just feel like she just needs to hear my voice. And then you call her, and it's not a bad thing. And they're like, oh my gosh, I was just thinking about you, or I was listening to our song, and you just called. That was so neat. That's an example of a healthy courting. Then all of a sudden, let's say between spouses, because I've seen this a lot. Maybe one spouse is going through, actually, this is my example. So my husband had lost his father and his grandmother, whom he loved and was very close to, in a year. And my husband was going through a lot at that time. And of course, it's my husband. I'm very corded to him. And I wanted to be there and understand what he was going through. So I would allow the cord to be there until the point where I became so brain fogged, scattered, couldn't sleep well, wasn't eating, was because I was taking all his grief, his frustration, that he couldn't say goodbye to his dad. So I would start sensing these things. And then I would be like, oh my gosh, I'm allowing him to court me, because I allowed it, because I wanted to know how to be there for my husband. So then I would have to cut the cords. And how do we cut the cords? You can do it through hand movement. Some people like hand movement. I'm one of them, as we can tell. And then some people don't even need to. They just use their mind and they're silent. So it's all about intention. Intention is where the energy will flow, because that's the attention you are putting it into, and that's where it's going to go. So say, for example, we have cords, and I tell people, like, I don't know if I have bad or good cords. Like, here's what you can do. Don't worry about if it's, do I have them or not. Before you go to sleep, because some people can't sleep because they've literally been carrying the world upon them, and so they just are exhausted and fatigued, and maybe they're like wired in the brain but tired in the body. So then I tell my clients, well, what you can do is say, you can take your dominant hand, which is the one that you write with, that you use mostly, and you would have the palm facing your body, and you would basically say, I cut any and all negative etheric cords between me and others, known and unknown. And you're gonna like pretend like this is the hand that is like this sword, and imagine that there are little cords or threads or cables, and this knife can cut right through them, and you're slicing them down because you're now disconnecting yourself from the person that you were courting or you were being courted to, what have you. And you're only saying the negative ones. It doesn't mean like where my spouse, doesn't mean that we weren't going to be connected again. I just could not be connected to him when he was going through so much, because of my
Those,
responsibility.
those negative aspects that came with him grieving that really drained you,
Oh, it
not
did.
only as right as a spouse, even more, because now you have this, and then you also obviously share a child, so now you already have kind of like shared DNAs, which is
Yes, right.
much more stronger force in a sense too than just, for instance, boy and girlfriend. However, that's very strong too. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I really like the example of like the hand gesture and the hand movements, because those are really things that, I obviously learned from you,
Mm-hmm.
being in your presence
Yeah.
such long time. But I feel like also those are things that people really need to know about, because sometimes we just really don't know why we feel all of a sudden we're irritated or moody or angry, or we have a headache, or we have shoulder pain, or we have this. And it's not always because you are a natural born empath, which really has a lot to do with that. It
Mm-hmm.
could also just be really that, like you said, you're being courted, or,
There's emotional
you're just a
connection.
very highly sensitive person in HSP, which is really brand new on the market too, in the sense that people finally start talking about HSPs in a general and what that really means, and it really doesn't mean that somebody is really like so super hypersensitive of like they cry about every little thing, but it's really that they feel any emotion so much more amplified than somebody that isn't an HSP,
Right.
like a heartache or grief or sadness would be just doubly amplified on the emotional feeling of somebody that is not an HSP. And so, I'm glad that you brought up these examples, because, energy in general and just really having an open heart and an open mind about all these topics. I'm so glad that collectively we are really starting to come out of the gate and allowing those ideas at least to be brought to us. We don't have to adapt to them.
Yes,
We
you don't
don't
have
have to
to
go
do
with
it, but
it.
just listen to it's a different
Right.
perspective. Really,
Right, exactly.
you
And it
may be
doesn't take,
surprised.
and I think for me, really for me, I was always so apprehensive through all of that, is because I never wanted anything to come against my faith with God. And I was very respectful of my God in a sense. But, this showed me that those are all things that in your own authority, like laying hands on yourself, like this is all stuff that the
Mhm.
Bible also talks about, like
Yes,
how powerful we are as humans and what really of a wonderful image we are of Him. And and just using and having mentors in our lives that kind of like do some work for you, really work where you just don't even know where to start. We just in a sense touched up the surface stuff, what really energy and Reiki and all of that is, but obviously there's so many more. And you slightly talked about it a little bit earlier when you said demonic forces. Obviously
yes,
there's so much more other entities that play such a role that people in normal life, and I was one of them also. I had no idea that that even exists, and it goes on from like an evil eye to an energetic knife in your back to having a
yes.
scarlet letter on you, having a veil on you.
Mhm.
Like those are all terms that I've never ever heard in my life
Right.
before. And so, obviously, me and you, we could sit here for like so
Absolutely.
many hours and talk about. But I feel like we really covered the main important things of kind of
Yeah.
like semi just giving a good idea of what really it is to have a spiritual healer in your corner and how beneficial really it can be for you. But I want to give you the floor for something that you feel like maybe if nobody ever been in this kind of like idea of like healing or energy, what is maybe something that somebody could actually right away start to see or practice for themselves, of just really seeing like, would this
Hmm.
energetically actually resonate with me? Would it make sense for me to kind
Yeah.
of like just know a little bit more about that before people just completely close off and say like, yeah, no, that's nothing for me or whatever? What is kind of like your idea of like, how do you know about your own self that you really, when you said at the beginning that you actually do have healing powers in your own paws,
Yeah.
like what is something that you can right away test on yourself where you're like, oh wait, I've never really actually intentionally noticed that, but yeah, it's there, like, ooh,
Right.
yeah.
Right. I think that everyone can find there's a couple things that one can do. So like to practice or to discover what subtle energy field is the way I would teach my little children. And I do this because they're so imaginative and they role play so well and they just get right into the role, and they're not held back by, do I look weird, or is this wrong, or am I doing it right? So, I'll tell my little ones, I'll say, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to connect to the earth. You know how those flowers, they have all those pretty cool roots, and so does the trees. And I would take them to go look at them, and I'll, hear, whether it was at my house or my other places I would have, because I would grow gardens. I was like, pull that out. And they pull it out. I go, what do you see? I see this. And I'm like, what are all those little things? And they were like, I don't know. They look like veins. And I'm like, those are roots. I'm like, how would you like to feel planted like that flower? How would you like to feel what that may be, like being connected to earth that way? Would you like to try something with me? And the kids are like, yeah, let's do it. I was like, okay. So then I would help them to get comfortable with what they already know that's in their world that's tangible. So I would say, I want you to pretend that you are a tree. And I tell people, you could even do this outside. It really helps you when you are actually outside and maybe you are near a tree, or you can even put your hand on a tree, because my mom used to have me tree hug. She was actually teaching me just to know what it felt like, different energies of things. So you would go ahead. You can be outside. You can be near a tree. You could even be around your plants, so whether you're inside or outside, what have you. What you're going to do is you're going to connect to that. You're going to set the intention. I'm connecting to this tree. I'm connecting to Mother Earth. I'm connecting to these flowers. I'm connecting to these rocks. I'm connecting to this ocean, to these mountains. I'm connecting to this earth. Anyone, right. Whatever one you want. At that moment, I want you to let go of any thoughts, and your thoughts will come in. You just be like, I dismiss that, and breathe. Allow yourself just to be present. That is the first way to start recognizing energy, subtle energies. You already do it now. You know, when the breeze and the wind comes by and you feel that, whether it's soft and gentle or like, whoa, it made its presence known, you're already doing it every single day. Or how about that song that just moves you and makes you tear up? You're already connecting to the words, to the sound, to the song. So we always do it. So what you can do is you can say, I am connecting to, and choose whatever earthly element that feels right to you. So like me, I love having my crystals, and this is one. So I hold on to it because I love earth. I like the earth element. It feels good. It feels calm, especially this particular one. So when you're connecting, you're setting the intention, I'm connecting. I want you to practice that breath where it's like, and I tell people to hold it. And the reason why we hold that energy right here, it starts to build up, and then you kind of slowly exhale. And you let that body just keep doing it, and you recognize you have to get really attentive to all the little subtle things that we do and be really present in your body. And so then I'll tell the child, once I see that they're like really in it and they're breathing it in, they're just loving, they're feeling the environment, I'll tell them to repeat these words with me. I go, but you have to believe it. You got to be open to it for this to work. Okay. And they're like, okay. And so I'll say, all right, now let's pretend that our bodies are a tree and our feet is deeply rooted into the earth, the grass, wherever you are at. Now pretend that you're deeply rooted. Feel your feet super planted. It's beginning to sink even a little deeper, a little deeper. Your toes may even feel like they got to cringe just a little bit because you're now moving for some reason. You feel this little light sway. And some of my kids, they would have a very strong sway. They're like, why am I moving? I go, well, don't trees move? They're not just perfectly still, right? When they're planted in the earth, they have a movement. They have a vibration. They're picking up the element of the wind. And I said, so it's okay to move. So they're like, okay. And I said, now I want you to say with me, I am deeply rooted. I am grounded. Stable. I'm safe. I'm secure. And visualize yourself as you are the tree. You get to connect beautifully with this earth that has given you a place to call your own, to experience life and to enjoy it. And so I'm just getting them used to the environment, getting used to their own body, teaching them to be present, allowing their imagination, that visualization and connection to the sensations around them, it starts to funnel through their body. And I notice that the children are not just as excited anymore. They're very calm. They're listening. They're tuned in. And some of them will share and I'll say, tell me what you feel right now. I feel almost like it's something's going through my body, like a bunch of tingles. And I go, oh, you feel tingles? Okay, stay with that. Keep breathing. Some will say, I don't know. I feel like I'm getting like warmer in my body. I go, ooh, so you're picking up the earth signatures. You're picking up the temperature of the earth. Great, keep it going. So everyone's going to have an experience. So I just work with what's tangible and being present in the body, breathing that through, using visualizations, teaching them how to be intentional, that it has a purpose. And it's teaching them how to use their mind of what the thoughts that they want to create and how that can serve them. So starting off with something simple. And I'm going to tell you, if you don't even want to remember the words, go outside, put your hands, palms down, feet, no shoes, whether you're in the sand, I don't care where you're at, and just tune in. And some people have a hard time because they're listening to the environment. Then I say, put on your little earbuds, put on something beautiful. Like you could even look for meditation music or nature sounds or binaural beats or your favorite song. I don't care. But allow your body to be present, because in this day-to-day life, we're always in the rush. We're moving so quickly. It's constant this, Instagram, instant ramen. It's instant that we lose the translation of connection to ourselves and to the planet, because we're always having to go. Once you learn how to fine-tune that, you can still be on your go, but you'll also learn how to be present and how to be in a controlled state of mind. And your body, and isn't that what we all want, is a healthier body, mind, and emotional state, so that we can do the very thing that we want to do here on this earth and to experience. So it's little subtle things that I like to share and teach. And would you like me to demonstrate really quick what that looks like?
You can, but I just wanted to add to that's such a great way of grounding, like I remember when I started my journey many years ago, and I learned about grounding and I learned about staying within or just being. And that was very challenging for me. I would do exactly that. I would go actually to a park with a lot of grass area, and I would always have, I would actually lay in the grass with my feet and my hands flat, and I would have Pandora on. And I would listen to really calming spa music, no singing, no anything, more like instrumental calm. And I could lay there for hours, and sometimes hours went by and I just didn't even realize. And so really in that moment when you said, thoughts are coming in and the noise and this and that, it got less and less and less, because I feel like when we start to practice these kind of things, and they could be short as 5 minutes daily, and they don't have to be necessarily in a specific place. Even though I feel if it's outside in an outdoor environment, like you said, sand, grass, something in the earth, it's a little bit more powerful than in your home. But you can also practice that in your home, and it doesn't matter if you start with 5 minutes or you end up with 50 minutes. I mean, that kind of depends on your day. But I feel like just really learning how to ground and how to really appreciate that you're connected and you're part of this beautiful earth. And just really, because at the beginning when people tell me hugging a tree, I'm like, yeah, you crazy. I'm like, yeah, okay.
I know. It sounds silly.
I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, whatever. And so, but now I get it, now I really do understand the power behind earth energy and what that really means, and how beautiful it actually is really to have the ability to feel and communicate even to earthly, environment, and also creatures. And so it's so powerful. But I really loved how you explained the example of really what we can do just to start when we really don't know where to start. Because I feel like the problem that so many of us have is the fact that we cannot seem to get quiet within. And for me, back in the days when people would tell me, well, just stay calm, that didn't do anything for me.
You're like, what does that mean?
Totally. What does that really mean, stay calm? Don't you know that my life is blowing up? My life is all over the place. I don't understand what you're saying. And so, but with these practices, I think it's such a great way of really allowing yourself to be and becoming and being, and so, I really love the example of how you shared that.
Thank you. And that really it's all up to you. Every one of you, you are all creators. We are co-creating with this amazing energetic frequencies, sources, existences all around us. And it's really just learning how to tune into yourself and not, in the beginning, it always feels awkward and weird and strange because it's not something that we're familiar with. That's why I say, children and animals don't get in their own way. They allow the energy to come through. And so they have really great experiences and results. But we too can do it. Our inner child is within all of us. I don't care what old age, whatever you want to call us at that point. It exists within us. Remember when we were kids, when we allowed ourselves just to be open and to explore and to discover. So that's why I'll tell people, if you want to work with me, you have to be able, ready, willing, and eager. You have to be an open mind. You don't have to understand it all. You don't have to analyze or figure it out. I'm going to guide you through it. I'm going to explain everything. And that's why I do that in my practice, is that I want you to understand what I'm saying and not just come in, I make you feel good, and then you go away and you're like, I don't know what that is. And I started learning that very early on in my practice, was when I heard other people telling me their experiences with other practitioners. I was like, how was it? You went to so-and-so. Yeah, it was great. What was it like? Oh, it was so relaxing. So what did you find out? I don't know. I just left. And then one of the other people who's now a practitioner that came to me a couple of years ago, she had a Reiki practitioner work on her and she got very sick and didn't explain what happened. And that would be considered like a healing crisis. When there's a lot that we have stuck inside of our bodies, it's kind of, think of plumbing. You got to take you got to drain it out. You got to take the snake and you got to pull all the gunk out. And there's probably still more compacted and like way, way down there, but they're still feeling, all these movements inside their body. And they don't understand why. And that's why I'm like, I have everything detailed, like FAQs. I break it down on my website. You can talk to me. I give access to my clients to communicate and ask me, hey, I'm feeling like this. And then I'll send them an email after I think like 24 or 48 hours to explain what they're feeling, why they're feeling that it's not that they're broken. They're having breakthroughs. They're detoxifying. Their bodies are finally having their channels and meridians and pathways are now unclogged. So they're sensing all these things that they weren't aware of, and they're like, how is this possible? This woman hasn't even touched me, and yet I'm experiencing these things.
And I want to quickly add to that point that I really do, because I would have probably not said that if I did not experience this in my own life, that's exactly how it feels for me too. That, when we would work with each other, that after the sessions, I would really feel either a complete way of, I'm so good, I feel like I want to just go to the beach and have a margarita, or I would literally feel like I am so tired, I literally need to take a nap right now because I can barely keep my eyes open because I could feel all those movements that have been, like you said, like the snake that takes it all out, like it's tiring. It's really draining in a sense, but not negatively draining, more draining in the sense of like, finally I'm being released of that. Finally, it's like, when you carry like those bags and you're like, oh, one bag.
That's true. And you're maybe a little sore and you're like, oh, I'm ready to rest.
And so I would have never believed that either at the beginning, when somebody would have told me, oh yeah, this is just over Zoom. And I'm like, yeah, okay.
That's been probably the biggest challenge I've had throughout the years. And now I'll say it's gotten to the point where people understand that you do not have to touch a person. I even recall a practitioner was like, that can't be. And I said, your thoughts, your words, your prayers, your intentions, your commands, whatever you want to identify it with, it has life. It's got power behind it. And no, you don't have to touch a person. The energy is all over. It's all around. And we connect on a level of subtle energy. I don't have to touch you for it to happen. I mean, I can. And it's going to work either way, but that's what I was explaining, that energy doesn't understand distance. It doesn't understand that you're in one state and I'm in the other. All it knows is that you and I have set an intention and we're in agreement. And this is the message and I'm going to get it to you. And you're like, I'm ready to receive it. And then you accept it into your body and your body's making these changes. I mean, I just had my mentor, my own healer, work on me this week. And I thought was so neat. He was doing some upgrades for me because I'm going to be doing some really cool things the next few months. I was like, I need help with this. Can you help me to upgrade in these areas? And what I mean by upgrade is to become more open-minded to new opportunities that are happening for me that are outside of my comfort zone. That's kind of stretching me. And I'm like, oh, I know I asked for this and it's happening right now, but I'm a bit overwhelmed. And so he'll work through my beliefs, like ask me, what is it that I am feeling? And so I'll say what I'm feeling, and then he'll help me change that belief system through suggestion, through emotional awareness. So I become intelligent to why I'm feeling that way, recognize that, and say, no, I no longer connect to that. And so even after I did my session, and I've been going to him since I was, God, goodness gracious, I don't know, before my 20s, because now he's like 75. And I was knocked out until the next morning. I hadn't had something like that, but again, I had a lot of programming that my brain was open to receiving, because I'm like, I want to be able to identify in this role so that I can show up in that better version of me. But part of me is like, I'm a little overwhelmed. So even still, for someone who does it and receives it, I too experience the physical symptoms, but I'm not afraid of it. I actually like it. When I have those noticeable symptoms, I'm like, ooh, this was a really good clearing that I just did. This is a great reset. So, those are little factors that we come across, and we explain all those things. I explain them.
I mean, I would love, if that's okay, I'm obviously going to put your website below the show notes, that, whoever maybe sees this and feels the need of connecting with you, your information will be right in the show notes.
Thank you.
Because I feel like, we need to share with each other and good things and good information and resources. And it's really the time of not gatekeeping anything anymore, any longer. It's no need. There's plenty in the universe.
Bring up these ancient wisdom and modalities that have been here for generations before you and I were even thought of. They've been here. They didn't have our technologies today. They didn't have the machinery or any feedback. It was all solely, truly living off their intuition and through the knowledge that was passed through generations.
Yeah, exactly. But this was such a great conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for dropping all your wisdom, golden nuggets. Thank you for sharing, ideas of practices of how we can, protect ourselves and jump in. And also, of course, thank you for being here for the public, sharing your energy, sharing your gift. I know from personal conversations, sometimes it does really get to you, and you have to do a lot of back end work that nobody gets to see. To really reset and calm yourself down, because in the end, you're also just a human experiencing
absolutely
this life, and with your amazing gifts. But it does take sometimes a toll on you, and so I want to speak out a big thank you. My respect goes out to you for being such a wonderful and kind light worker and such a wonderful, warm soul. I'm so grateful we met in this lifetime, and you changed my life in so many ways. And so I'm thank you.
Thank you. I can feel your love. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share with everyone. Absolutely. Anybody that is interested, she'll leave the information. Please let me know how you found me. I want to know how you got to know who I am, and I am more than happy to offer a complimentary Zoom meet and greet or Facebook Messenger, and I can do all the things that you want, WhatsApp or what have you, because I take care of people globally and in different parts of the world. So I know time zone can be a bit of a challenge, but we can do it. And I'm more than happy to meet with you. So thank you again for having me. I wish you all an abundant, happy, and healthy life. And thank you again for having me today.
Thank you. Well, podcast lovers, another great one. And as always, if you have something to say, if you want to come and share my mic with your story, with anything you have on your heart, just know my mic is open to you. But until then, stay rooted, stay grounded, and always stay connected to love, the strongest force in the universe.